Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Hopefully you can see the slides, and if you've come to the right place for this webinar. If you have a student in high school who has no clue what they want to do for a career or after they leave high school, or if they're trying to figure out where they will apply to college and where they can get in, or if your kids have been successful in high school and you want them to be successful when they're choosing their careers and moving on into their professional careers, or if you want them to go on to college and graduate on time while spending as little of your money as possible while they're there, or if they're already in college but haven't figured out their career options yet. I actually got an email from a mother today who has a 26-year-old college graduate who's still trying to figure out what they want to do or what they want to be. Or you want them to graduate from college with multiple job offers, and you want them to move quickly into a career where they can maximize their talents, outperform their peers, and live financially independent from you. If any or all of these are true, then you're in the right place. What you'll learn in this webinar are basically three things. That is how college works, how career planning typically works, and how your students can beat the odds. And by beating the odds, we mean leverage their time and financial investment in college to launch into a career where they can be wildly successful. Here's what we want for the ultimate goal, or the final outcome, and probably what you want for your child too. You want to maximize the odds that your student will make a successful transition into adulthood or the real world. You want them to leverage their strengths and their gifts in their future career. You want them to do work, find work that they love and enjoy doing. And you want them to perform well because they're naturally wired for it. And you hope that they can figure out how to do all of this stuff faster than you and I probably did. Unfortunately, college doesn't always work out so well. Far too many students spend extra time in college obtaining degrees that don't give them many good career options. The average student spends over 5 years trying to get a 4-year degree, and way too many students are underemployed when they leave college, resulting in many of them coming back home to live with their parents. And if you think it's hard to live with a high school student in your home, a teenager, just wait until a 20-something comes back home to live with you. And all of these situations, they all had one thing in common. They thought they would figure out their career while they were in college. In case you're wondering how I got into this business, this slide shows my journey from college to career. I'm married and I have 2 kids of my own, and I thank God every day that they're both successful young adults, married and living on their own. I had 10 different jobs while working for 5 different companies in the first 22 years of my professional career. And out of those 10 jobs, there were 8 that I hoped I'd never get to go back and do again. So I started my own business 16 years ago that was focused on helping businesses figure out how to measure job fit, to help them get the right people in the right seats sooner rather than later. And I've lived through the high school to college to career transition process with my own 2 kids. And that's how I learned that they were being given poor information at the wrong times in order to help them make these life-changing decisions. So I decided to take what was working for my business clients and make it available to high school students and college students so they could play it forward, if you will, and make better decisions than most of us did, and make them much earlier in their career. Over 800 students have now gone through our ultimate student success process. And you can read what their parents have said about what it's like to work with us on our website. The turning point for me was when I went with my firstborn on college visits. And we sat in the office of a director of admissions, and she described how they help students choose a major. She told me what assessment instrument they used to help their students decide, for those who were undecided. She wasn't even aware that the tool they were using is not reliable or valid for the purpose they were using it for. And I knew this because I've been using assessment instruments in hiring for a number of years. What she basically told me was that they were using a $25 assessment tool, one that doesn't work for the purpose they were using it for, to help their students figure out the best way to use the $160,000 degree they would get from that university. So I decided to come back home and do some more research. And it turns out that many colleges and career counselors are using similar approaches. So I decided to look at what works for our business clients and make it available to students and their parents. We've worked with hundreds of businesses over the last 16 years to help them build high performer benchmarks so they could compare their candidates to the benchmarks. The 3 steps we use when working with business clients are: we understand how the candidates are wired, and we measure at least 20 different characteristics in 3 major categories as we're figuring this out. We understand how their candidates' wiring compares to their top performers because we measure these same traits of their top performers. And then we show them how to hire people that are wired as close as possible to their top performers, and show them which characteristics or traits tend to be more telling or predictive. And since the tools we use with businesses are validated to use with young adults, we decided to take what works in the real world and allow students to play it forward in their career decisions. This slide is really very telling. It's got a lot of information on it. But basically, the three bars on the left, the most used for career planning in terms of assessment information, show that most career planners, most counselors, most colleges, most advisors use tools that focus on personality and interest. And if they have anything on aptitudes or abilities, it's usually very, very limited. And in the real world, what most employers use, if they know what they're doing, is using tools that are very heavy on aptitudes and abilities. So you get 2 totally different perspectives by using different tool sets. There almost couldn't be a more wrong way to go about career planning than what happens for most students today. By focusing on personality and interest and not focusing on aptitudes and abilities, or the ability to build high performer benchmarks and compare a candidate or a student to those high performer benchmarks. The other thing that you should know is the reason this doesn't get changed or fixed is that in the career planning industry or arena, there's very few regulations about what kind of tools you can use or what they have to be able to do or prove. Whereas assessment tools that are used in hiring are very heavily regulated. And if you are not using tools that are reliable and valid, you can get into some very, very big trouble legally if you can't prove that what you're measuring correlates to performance, which a lot of those tools represented on those 3 bars on the left can't do. So a little bit of knowledge about how assessment works, how assessments work, can go a long, long way in career planning. So remember, we're going to talk about how college works. We've talked some about how career planning works, and we're going to talk about how your student can beat the normal odds. This slide gives a lot of information about how college typically works, and I call it the college 4x4 because each one of these topics, each one of these 4 topics has 4 bullet points below it. So starting in the upper left, how most students typically choose a college. Now this is a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but it's not too far from the truth to say that I call this the 4F method. And the 4 F's are, most students will consider where their friends are going to school. They'll think about where their family members went to school. I live in the South, and I can guarantee that students are thinking about what kind of football team the school has, or what are football weekends like on that campus. And sometimes that gets way too much emphasis. And the 4th F is, what can the family afford financially? And that's almost always a factor in the college decision process. The second topic, what colleges are looking for when they look at a student's application. Well, this is a basic list of 4 things that you're probably already very familiar with. High school counselors will grill this into the minds of their students starting in the freshman year. And those 4 things are GPA, or grade point average, standardized test scores, you know, what your student makes on the ACT or SAT exam, extracurricular activities, and number 4 is essays. So that's what colleges will look for when they review your student's application for their college. The third topic on this slide is why students don't graduate on time. This one actually has a bonus item on it. There's actually 5 instead of 4, but the first 4 are that there are a lot of students getting out of high school today who were not academically prepared to be successful in college. I've seen research recently that says up to 50, that's 50% of college students will have to take some remedial courses before moving into college level coursework. The second reason that graduation rates are so poor is that due to family finances and how much college costs, a lot of students are having to work their way through college and not able to take a full coursework or full load of courses each semester because they're working. The third reason students don't graduate on time is because they change their major once they start. And those who change their major often change multiple times while they're in college. And the fourth reason, which was really a surprise to me when I found it, in terms of how big it is, and that is over 25% of college students do not graduate from the school that they started at. So over 25% of college graduates started somewhere else. And I was amazed at that number, that there were so many. Now, there can be some very good reasons for that in this day and age. One of them is there's a lot more families who are looking at 1 or 2 years at a community college or a 2-year college before going to a 4-year university because it is so much cheaper, especially if the student can live at home for 2 years before going off to the 4-year school. So there can be some great reasons for why you would go to different schools, but 25% graduate from someplace different than they started. The bonus item in this list that most people are not aware of, and I was really surprised when I found this one out, is that when your student goes to college and signs up for freshman classes their first semester, many advisors today, I'll say more than 50%, I don't know the exact number, are recommending that students only take 12 hours a semester. Well, if you do the math, 12 hours times 8 semesters, 4 years, spring and fall semesters, 8 times 12 is 96, not 120, which is what it takes to graduate. So those students who just take 12 hours a semester end up being 24 hours short of graduation after 4 years in school, unless they go to summer school every year, which is doable, but it's very challenging if you also want to work internships or earn some money while you're in school to help pay for some of the college cost. So just be aware of that as you're planning your college financial picture, and don't just assume that everybody gets out in 4 years, because the reality is most of them don't. And then the fourth topic on this slide, ways to maximize college outcomes. Pretty simple list. One is to start the planning process much sooner. Number 2, know as much as you can about yourself and your giftedness. Number 3, know as much as you can about your career fit options, i.e., how your wiring compares to other people who are doing jobs in the real world. And number 4, enlist a few trusted people to help you make wise decisions along the way. So looking at this slide, if everything works out perfectly and your child goes to a state university and happens to have their game in place and planned out really well, and they actually get out in 4 years, most families are looking at approximately $100,000 investment for 4 years in college at a state university. Most families are about to spend a ton more money on college. That's because less than 1 in 4 college students actually graduate on time. So deciding or determining or planning how much money you're really going to need to get them through school can be pretty challenging. The hard cost of each additional semester at a state university is at least $12,500. And the real cost of each additional semester is probably closer to $40,000 when you include the lost income of them not being in a real job working somewhere, plus the cost of still being in school. You've all heard stories about students who don't finish college or can't find a well-paying job when they do. You may have friends who have kids that have had to come back home and live with them after college. And again, once your child goes off to college and has lived on their own for a while, it's a whole new world when they come back home. You wonder if they'll actually be able to support themselves and or their family financially after college and attain the lifestyle that they had while growing up in your home. Or will they be working in some retail establishment or as a coffee house barista after college? And you may already be thinking about the benefits or potential benefits of being empty nesters at some point in your life. And you'd like to have some money left over after paying for college to travel or to do some of the fun things you put off to help get your kids through school. And you may be thinking about all of the career struggles that you may have had before you found your right career, or maybe you're still looking for that right fit. And you wonder if there may be a way to help your kids figure out their career choices in a way that works out better for them than the way it did for you. Here's one of the key reasons why the planning process should really start back in high school. Most high school students and their parents typically focus most of their time and energy while in high school on how to get into college, and very little time on what they will do when they get out. Recent published statistics said that over 31% of college freshmen change their degree plans or their major in the first year. That's nearly 1/3. And like we discussed on the 4x4 slide, changing majors is one of the top 4 reasons why students don't graduate on time. Changing degree plans results in longer time to graduation, which means more students are on campus, which means more faculty and capital expenditures are required by the colleges, and it takes longer for graduates to become productive members of the economy. A translation, students changing majors is also one of the primary reasons college has gotten so expensive and students have to take on so much debt. I want you to remember this red line on this slide because I'm going to show it another way in just a minute. The problem is that most people are putting their focus in the wrong place. Instead of focusing on where they will spend their next 4 to 6 years, they should be focusing more on where they want to spend the 40 years after that, the years we call the career years, and then make their college decisions based on their long-term goals instead of just the next 4 to 6 years. And while I'm here, let me talk about time commitments for a minute. Our ultimate student success process will take a minimum of 6 hours to work through and complete, and in some cases could take more. A lot of parents and students turn away when they hear that because they're looking for the short answer. Going for the short answers will get you what most people are getting out of college, which isn't nearly enough. If you were to treat college as a job for the next 4 years for your student, and in most jobs, they'll spend at least 2,000 hours per year, then your student will be investing at least $8,000 in their future career over the next 4 years, plus another 80,000 hours in their future career after that. So don't tell me that spending 6 hours to prepare for how to best spend those 88,000 hours is an unrealistic amount of time, because it's not when you look at the big picture. And remember this blue line, because that'll come up again also. In fact, it's on the next slide. So if you take those 2 approaches, the first one I'll call the short-term approach, thinking about just getting into college. So this is a strategy map, and that was defined in a book called Blue Ocean Strategy a few years ago. But if you look at this, those who do, follow short-term planning, they'll do very little in terms of understanding how they're gifted and how they're wired and how that relates to careers before making a decision on college. Then they'll go off to college, and the average today for students is to spend 5.5 years to get a 4-year degree. The cost for that 5.5 years at a state university is $137,500. And most of those students are still pretty dazed and confused when they get out because they haven't put a whole lot of thought or planning into what they're going to do anywhere along the way. Compare that to the blue line, which is if you take into account long-term planning. And if while they're in high school or early college years, you look at how they're wired and how they're gifted and how that compares to actual careers, then students can get on track and on target to get out of college on time because they made good decisions coming in terms of direction and what they wanted to do and what they were capable of doing. And they can get out in 4 years with some good planning and some hard work. And 4 years in college at that same state school cost $100,000 versus $137,500. And those students will typically earn 30 to 50% more per year in their careers than their counterparts who didn't plan out so well. And believe me, I can prove those numbers out on the increased earnings because a couple of years ago, we had one student whose first year starting salary, who used our information, our process, our methods. Her first year starting salary was 70% above the national average for students who earned her particular degree in college. So I know this approach works, and it can work for your students as well. So just to briefly recap where we've been. We've talked some about how college works. We've talked some about assessment instruments and what's used in career planning versus job placement. And we'll talk some more about assessments in a minute. And we've shown you the importance of having a plan before your student starts college if you want them to be successful with their college degree on the back end. So think about or remember the lesson from Alice in Wonderland. When she came to a fork in the road and looked up to the Cheshire Cat for advice. So Alice, when she came to the fork in the road, asked the Cheshire Cat, which road should I take? And the cat looked back down at her and said, where do you want to go? Alice's response, I don't know. And the cat responded, then it doesn't matter which road you take, or any road will get you there. Unfortunately, way too many college students are starting college this way, not really knowing where they want to go, and hope to figure that all out in college. I'm here to tell you that's not what college is for, and that's not what colleges are good at. So this slide shows an overview of how we work with students to help them make better career decisions earlier. Our process for helping students works because it mimics exactly what we've been helping businesses do for over 16 years. We've created a simple 3-step plan to help you drastically increase your child's odds of being successful after college. But like we've said, what most people don't know is that this process needs to start long before the child goes off to college in order to avoid the consequences of getting it wrong or putting off the decision until later. Now, before we move on, and we don't have much more to cover, we do have some, but before we move on, I want to tell you who should not be thinking about using our tools or services and can realistically just stop here. So if you have unlimited resources and you don't care how long it takes for your student to finish college or how much it costs or whether they can get a job, then you could stop here. If you don't care how your student chooses their career direction, or if they have a high odds of success in that career, if you don't care if they go to college and then struggle to find a job on the back end, or if you don't care if they have to come back home and live with you after college, and you continue to financially support them through their adult lifetime. But if you do care about those things, and those things are important to you, then stick around because we've got a few more points to cover. Here's the real reason I got passionate about helping students and parents to make better decisions. Not only is the current college plan not working out very well, but it continues to get worse instead of better. You can see on this slide on the left-hand side in 2008 when I was beginning to work with students, 36% of students were graduating in 4 years. Now it's less than 25. 42% were taking 6 years. Now over 46% of students don't have a degree after 6 years. And it's still tough to find a job. There's still a lot of students continuing on in school, and I believe a lot of them are continuing on in school because they haven't figured out what to do after school. And those who want a job, not all of them are finding jobs. So it's not a great system or process, and it's not getting better. Now compare that to what happens to some students who've worked with us in recent years. The young lady on the left was actually a college freshman when she came to us. And she was almost through with her first year. She was majoring in architecture, and she was ready to give up on architecture because she didn't know that she was really gifted for it. She was literally about to change majors when she came in and met with us and her parents, And she told her parents asked her why she was wanting to change. And she said, because it's so hard. But after going through our assessment process and seeing all of her results and how good of a fit she would be for her career, she decided to stick it out in architecture and went on to work as an intern for one of the best architectural firms in the state. After graduating with her 4-year degree, she went on to graduate school at one of the premier architectural schools in the country, and today is working as a professional architect. The young lady on the right was really undecided at the beginning of, after high school and before starting college. And then, due to what she learned from our process and our assessments and our information, decided to pursue a pretty difficult degree in engineering. She's now nearing graduation, and she's working in an internship where they love her work and they want her to come work for them when she graduates. She actually wrote me a thank you note when she got the internship to say she never would have gotten that opportunity had she not gone through our process to help her make a good directional decision in the first place. So this slide shows the major components of our ultimate student success process. So we will provide an overview to your student and include some of the facts that we've covered in terms of how college actually works to kind of get their attention and put the onus back on them for planning and making decisions about what they want to do and why. And then we'll use 2 separate whole person assessment tools, which take a total of 3.5 hours to complete. They're both online, but they'll help us understand how your student is wired. The first one compares their results to over 200 career options. The second one compares their results to over 500 career options. And then we'll have some significant review and planning on the back end to teach them how to use this information to make great choices about their careers and majors. So we'll not only share what the assessments say and mean, but help them and you to understand how much weight you should put on the different pieces of the assessment tools in order to make the best career decisions. Now, we offer 2 price points for how we work with families, students, and parents. And first of all, if you think either one of these is a lot of money, I agree. It is, either choice. I also know that if it saves your family or your child from just 1 additional semester in college, that your payback will be at least 12-fold this investment. And that 3/4 of your students will spend at least 1 extra semester in college. So do the math for your situation and evaluate your comfort level with those risks. I also know that it's not a one-time decision we're talking about here. Most of your students will make decisions about college, about changing careers or jobs between 20 and 30 times in their career. Because of the reliability of the tools we use, the information we provide will be able to be used from now on in their career decision processes. We also have a money-back guarantee, and it's slightly different for the 2 versions that we offer. And I can make a different commitment level on these 2 because I can control more of the process in the second one than I can on the first one. And by control, I mean I'll know what information you've gone through and what you haven't, because I'll go through it with you. Whereas in the online version, I'll just know that you had access to it, and I won't know if you ever accessed it or used it. If someone works with me individually and goes through the entire process, and after completing the feedback sessions, doesn't believe it was worth the investment, then simply request a refund and I will grant it. I will tell you that I've been working with families in this area for over 10 years now, and not a single parent has ever requested a refund. Now, it could happen, but it hasn't happened yet. With the online option, which I'm really promoting in this webinar, I only offer a 50% refund because number one, I'm offering it for so cheap, and because I have no way of knowing if you're actually trying to apply or go through the information or not. The bonuses for signing up, either option, we will provide our ebook. Currently, we're calling it Career First, College Second. It's going through a revision process right now. And that revision process might include a new title, but we'll give you our ebook when you sign up. And we also guarantee for our clients a 24-hour response time. So once you start working with us, once you sign up and go through our process, if you have questions about the information, about how to use it, et cetera, if you call or email us, we promise to get back to you within 24 hours. Now that's business days. That does not include weekends, but pretty strong commitment for response time. I've also been taught that you should provide some bonuses for taking fast action. So for those who sign up within 2 days of this webinar, you will get $50 off the online price. So instead of $597, you'll pay $547. Or if you sign up for the one-on-one option, it'll be $100 off. So instead of $1497, it'll be $1397. And the other fast action bonus for those who sign up for the one-on-one will be the earlier you sign up, the earlier you have choice on when we do your feedback session or sessions. So, you know, as those start stacking up, your options may be more limited or further out if you wait to sign up. As a recap, or you know, the biggest takeaway for this information is really about teaching your student how to put all of this information together. I never expect that someone will go through our process, choose a career direction, go to college and pursue the correct or best, you know, career plan, and then work successfully in that one job for the rest of their lives. That's just not how life works these days, nor has it worked that way for the last 40 years for that matter. This is about sharing a ton of really useful information and then developing or creating a process for how to use this information in their career decisions from now on. We want the world to be their oyster and for them to become wildly successful and for them to be able to give back and contribute to all of the many wonderful causes out there that are so important to them. And we want parents to be able to enjoy their empty nester years after all of the kids have launched successfully. And then you can go and do some of the fun stuff that you've been putting off while you put them through school. So to get started, it's really simple. You can go to our website, go to people-write, RIGHT.com/college, and it will present the two options for you to sign up. You can choose the group option or the one-on-one option. And if you have any questions whatsoever about any of the information or how it works, you feel free to call me. Here's my direct line. It's 214-702-6826. Or you can email me, mike@people-write, RIGHT.com. Again, both options, whether you choose online or one-on-one, follow the same general process. Once you sign up, the assessments will be scheduled, and we will plan a webinar, online webinar, much like this one, giving you an overview of how college works and how the process will work. Then we'll have a second webinar that will review the results from the first assessment instrument. And we'll have a third webinar to review the results from the second assessment instrument. And all along the way, there will be additional materials and exercises for the student to complete, and even some exercises for the parents to complete if they want to participate or be partners in this entire process. And since many of the parents will also be paying for most of the college, I highly encourage parents to be partners in this process. I'm not going to say they should be making the decisions. I'm certainly not going to say they should be leaving it all up to the student to make these decisions, because there's just so much information to absorb, and there's so many options to consider, and there's so much information that we're going to provide that it helps to have multiple people involved in this decision process, if nothing else than to discuss the options and consider the choices and discuss pros and cons of various choices. So again, final slide, how to get started. You can go to people-right.com/college. If you have any questions, you can give me a call, or you can send me an email. So I appreciate your time and your participation excuse me, on this webinar. And I look forward to working with you and your child, your student, soon.